Hi everybody, I'm TJ and this is Baby Star, and in today's video I want to share a really momentous moment in my life, which was the moment when I realized that I was open to having a child by myself. Until that time I had never wanted to have a child by myself and I was not at all open to the possibility. So in my 30s, I always knew I wanted to have a child, but it wasn't sort of top of mind. I just assumed that one day I would have a baby and I didn't really think about it. So I met a man when I was 37 and we started a serious relationship. It was always assumed that we would have a child together. That was part of what brought us together. But it ended up being a really difficult relationship. He and I really were not very compatible as partners. Anyway, we loved each other and we both tried really hard to make it work. We tried for 6 years. But once I got to 40 and I was still with him, I started to feel a little bit of a ticking clock, and I was bringing it up with him, but he kept saying, I don't want to bring a baby into this difficult relationship. I woke up on my 44th birthday and I just had this powerful knowing that I had to break up with this man who I loved. I just knew that no child was going to be born inside this relationship. It was like suddenly my urge for a baby kicked in, really kicked in. And it was hard, but I broke up with him. So at that point, I still felt like I had time to meet a man and have a baby. Because A, I didn't really know anything about fertility. I just never had looked into it. I didn't realize about the age that women's eggs start to decline. I knew none of that. And I'm also just a ridiculously optimistic person, so I just was believing in the romantic dream. I was such a romantic. I'm still such a romantic. I just assumed I'd meet someone in the next year and have a baby. And then the following year, I met an amazing man who was like everything I'd ever dreamed of. I mean, talk about the fantasy. When I first met him, he was saying things like, oh my God, we would have the most beautiful babies together and you would make the most wonderful wife and blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to make a video about the things that men say when they're excited that they deep down don't really mean, because they're just living in the moment and that we women actually take as literal. But that's a whole other video. So I pretty much wasted the next 6 months of my life on him. So that brings us to about December 2018. I was at an amazing festival and I met this wonderful man. This man did want a committed relationship, but he didn't want children. He already had grown children. This is the problem when you're in your 40s and you're dating men in their late 40s, early 50s. Most of them already have grown children. They don't want to do it again. So I remember that December 2018 really being a defining moment for me in this journey, because I had a choice between a wonderful relationship and having a baby. And I think that's when my priorities started to change. I still wasn't open to doing it by myself, but I chose to walk away from that because I wanted to have a baby. January 2019. I don't want to say much about it because it'll make me cry, but my beautiful mummy, my beautiful mother passed away. She and I had been best friends. We spoke every day on the phone for an hour, and that was just utterly soul destroying. And I think that kicked the next level in of wanting a baby, because I wanted that same relationship that I had with my mum. I wanted it with my own child. And that really, really deepened that longing once she was gone, to have that kind of strong, profound connection with someone. And then about a month after my beautiful mother left us, a really close friend of mine who had lost her own mother 3 years earlier, she said to me something that really was profound. She said, in the next 3 years, miracles are going to happen in your life. Your mother is going to be creating miracles from the other side. Now, whether you believe that or not, it really uplifted me. Of course, I assumed that the miracle my mother would create for me from the afterlife was that she would bring a man into my life who would fall in love with and have a baby with. On my birthday, May 2019, when I turned 46, I remember going out with a friend of mine to a cafe, and somehow my desire to have a child came up, and my friend says to me, you should think about having a baby by yourself. I said, no, I'm not interested in that. I changed the subject. But it really upset me, because I was like, why do people think I should have to give up my dream just because it hasn't happened yet? And blah, blah, blah. And I really was closed, 100% closed to the idea of doing it by myself. I had always been closed to it. I'd never, ever, ever considered it as an option. I was so yearning to find a man to have a relationship with, to create a child with out of love in partnership. And I was so 100% certain it was going to happen. It never occurred to me that it wouldn't. So I had never even entertained the thought. So when she said to me that I should have a child by myself, I was almost kind of offended. She was implying that my dream wasn't going to happen, that I was in a delusion or I was in a fantasy. And I did not like hearing that, because I was still in my fantasy. Then I started just dating because I was like, I am 46, I want to have a baby, I need to find a man. And I started really getting into that mode of Tinder, Bumble, dating, meeting men. I had a few months of that, 2 or 3 months of that. And then my sister arrived. And my sister has a beautiful little daughter who was 5 at the time. And I'm obsessed with her. I mean, I love my little niece. Like, I love her. We don't live in the same place, but we FaceTime almost every day. And I visit her whenever I can, and they visit me. And I'm really like crazy about her. My sister and my little niece came to stay with me. I think it was October 2019. And so while they were visiting, every night I would be watching TV with them, hanging out, cuddling, talking, and then they would go to bed in the room they were sharing, and they would fall asleep together. And I would lie in my bed, missing my niece and wishing I was cuddling her still, and just really feeling that as much as I love her, she's not my child. I have to hand her over to my sister every time. I'm kidding myself if I think that my love for my niece is going to fill this place in me that wants my own child. It just really hit me. So anyway, the moment came, the big moment of realization came the day I drove them to the airport so they could fly home. So there's this guy I'd seen a couple of times, but we'd found it difficult to meet up. So when I dropped them at the airport, I texted him and say, hey, I'm free now, we can find a time to catch up. My sister's gone. And he wrote back, oh, it's just not feeling aligned. It's just been too difficult for us to catch up. I think we should leave it. And I will never forget, I pulled up at my house, I saw this text from him. My heart sank. And then I got out of my car, and as I walked to the front door, I had this blinding moment of epiphany. What if my attachment to finding a partner is actually blocking this child from coming in? What if this child wants to come in a different way, through IVF or adoption or foster care or some other means, and I'm blocking it because I'm so fixated on creating a child out of love with a husband or a partner? And it was just like this lightning bulb moment. I was walking to the door with the keys in my hand, and suddenly hit me, and I was like, honestly, that was probably the moment that changed my life. Because from that moment on, I opened to the possibility of having a child by myself, without the life partner, without the husband. In fact, it was probably my first act of being a mother, because being a mother involves putting your own needs aside often for the needs of your child. And I suddenly realized I gotta put my dream of having a husband out of the way so this baby can come in and be born. And I'll never forget this. I had the realization as I was getting my keys out to open the door. I opened the door, I went inside, I went straight to my bedroom, I turned on my computer, and I stayed up all night researching adoption. Can you adopt over the age of 40? IVF, fertility testing, foster care. I mean, every possible thing that I had always said I wouldn't do, every possible thing I had been closed to, I just opened my mind up 100%. Baby, however you want to come in, I'm now open to you. I'm now open to you. I said that. I was now open to you. And that's probably what allowed you to come in, because she came in through the most extraordinary journey. So if you take nothing else from this story, I want you to take that you could just open your mind to the possibility. It doesn't mean you have a child by yourself. You may still meet your partner and have a relationship, but there's something about opening your mind which allows the universe to create possibilities. It might even make it easier for you to meet that partner because it takes the pressure off the dating. So I just wanted to share this story with you. There's plenty more aspects of this story that I'll share in other videos, but that's the moment when I had the realization that smashed my mind open. So I was suddenly open to the possibility of having a baby by myself, and that changed everything. Thank you for listening to my story. It's quite emotional. Oh my love, it's you that I dreamed of.